Craziest
Oh
jobs in the
man.
whole world. Up first, we have a professional napper. Yes, there's people out there who get paid to sleep as a profession. It's
Sign me
typically
up.
done for scientific research to study sleep patterns or for mattress testing. And they can earn up to $105,000 a year with full benefits and so much more. I don't know about you, but I would love to get paid to sleep.
What's up YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do. Let me break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank you guys, man, who come back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, commented down below, and most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button, man. You guys are helping us if we can find other fellow seekers, so I greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best. Let's seek the truth. There we go.
Here are the strangest things that were found in the middle of nowhere. Back in 2014, two German friends were walking through a forest that they used to play in as kids, when suddenly they noticed two pipes sticking out of the ground. They continued to walk until they stumbled upon a hidden doorway that went underground. They entered the creepy corridors until they stumbled into a room that was flooded and had a weird-looking machine. That's when they realized they were in an abandoned control bunker that was used by the Soviets during the Cold War. Next, in 2016, a group was flying in a helicopter over the forests of West Russia, and they spotted another helicopter that was abandoned in a swamp. This turned out to be an Mi-6 model that originated in 1956, and it was the largest and fastest helicopter at the time. It was revealed that the helicopter had been there since 1981, when it traveled from Moscow and it crashed because of engine failure. But thankfully, the crew of it did live to tell the tale. And finally, on Route 90 in Texas, you can find a Prada store that's surrounded by nothing but desert. This was actually art that was made back in 2005 and cost $120,000 to make. Inside the store, there's even real products from their 2005 Prada collection. But unfortunately, the doors aren't real, so you can't actually buy them.
The craziest
Oh,
jobs in the
man.
whole world. Up first, we have a professional napper. Yes, there's people out there who get paid to sleep as a profession. It's
Sign me
typically
up.
done for scientific research to study sleep patterns or for mattress testing. And they can earn up to $105,000 a year with full benefits and so much more. I don't know about you, but I would love to get paid to sleep.
Comment down below, man, if you can apply to be a sleep tester, bro. That's insane. That much money for just freaking testing beds and stuttering sleep patterns? Sign me up, bro. Oh, man. One of the weirdest jobs ever.
Felt one of the most haunted dolls on the planet. So continuing the story from my last TikTok, the family actually locked Robert in the attic of the house because they were so afraid of him because he was moving and doing creepy shit. Didn't stop him. Apparently in the attic he would move stuff around, bang on walls, and frighten the family. And kids walking by the neighborhood passing this is their house, would see Robert sitting right up here in the window staring at them. People think that Robert was haunted because the person that gave it to Jean, this guy right here, put some black magic or voodoo curse on the doll. When Jean died, a new family moved into the house and a daughter in the family was delighted to find Robert in the attic, but she claimed that Robert attacked her. And eventually, because Robert was too scary to keep in the home, he was donated to a museum. You're not supposed to take photos of Robert, and people have supposedly taken photos of him and been cursed. And people who work at the museum have supposedly seen Robert moving around in his case and even tapping on the windows and finding scratches inside of the case. What do you think? Would you visit Robert? I want to go and take a picture and see what happens, but he seems pretty chill.
Not me. I don't need none of that dark energy around me. I got it. I will not be seeing Robert. No.
She set her husband's private on fire after he cheated on her. Virginie Narayan lived in Adelaide, Australia with her husband Satish Narayan. They got married in July of 1986 and had a typical arranged Hindu marriage. Within that month, Satish had started to physically and verbally abuse Virginie. Virginie felt like this was all her fault and that she deserved how he was treating her. Virginie kept thinking to herself, if only she was the perfect wife, this wouldn't be happening to her. This would go on throughout their whole relationship. In December of 2008, Virginie found out that Satish was having an affair with another woman. As they were laying in bed together, she decided she was going to confront him about the allegations. Satish did nothing to console Virginie, who was hurt, frustrated, and angry, and Instead, he called her a fat B-word. At that moment, Regina lost control. She doused him in gasoline and lit his private area on fire with an angel candle that a fortune teller had given her. Doing this, Satish lost his life. Regina claimed that she didn't intend to unalive Satish. She just wanted to purify his private area and to stop the affair with the other woman. Regina was acquitted of murder, convicted of manslaughter, and sentenced to 6 years in prison. The Supreme Court ended up overturning the verdict and released her on a 3-year, $1,000 good behavior bond.
This is the Devil's Castle, and it's one of the scariest places on Earth. It's located in a small town in Mexico. Its actual name is Castillo del Diablo, and it was built by a painting contractor named Tony Wells. He spent almost $4 million on the castle, and it's become a worldwide attraction. In the castle, you can find coffins, creepy mannequins, and gargoyles. Wells has a collection of over 800 swords and knives, and about 350 beautiful antique mirrors. Often, Satan worshippers leave him presents, even though Tony does not believe in Satan. Would you dare spend a night in this place?
No. The name alone throws me off.
Countries with the most natural resources. Russia, India, Canada, Saudi Arabia, China.
Wow, I thought the US would be on that list.
Tried to sell their baby for a 6-pack of beer, but this case is even more dark and disturbing than it sounds. Darian Urban, aged 21, and Shailene Ellers, aged 20, live in Arkansas and recently became parents to a baby boy. However, far from the birth changing their life in a positive way, they reportedly struggle to cope with looking after the baby as well as 3 dogs. On the 21st of September this year, police in Benton County got a disturbing phone call. The caller reported witnessing the couple trying to swap their baby for a 6-pack of beer and some money. They were allegedly witnessed doing this at a campground and even creating a contract. Officers arrived and seized a note that stated, "I, Darian Urban and Shailene Ellers, are signing our rights over to blank of our baby boy blank for $1,000 on the 21st of the 9th, 2024. It then stated, "Disclaimer, after signing this there will be no changing y'all two's minds and to never contact again." Now, it's really disturbing if you read between the lines here. A woman reportedly heard a man agreeing with the mother of the baby to pay the couple so he could have the baby overnight. The man was reportedly extremely drunk. Now, I don't know what he wanted to do with this baby overnight. The child apparently appeared dirty and unchanged and seemed to be covered in a rash and blisters. Now, the couple were arrested and charged with endangering the welfare of a minor and effectively trying to sell their child. The child was removed from the parents and taken to a local hospital to be checked over. He's now being cared for by the Department of Human Services.
This is why you should
Sad
always
story.
lock your doors. A junior in high school was home alone working on a paper while his parents were out to dinner. All night he sits with his back to his door, sitting at his desk with his noise-canceling headphones on. Around 11 o'clock, he takes his headphones off at the same time his parents are returning to the house, and he hears his mom from downstairs yell, "Hey Adrian, what happened?" Confused, he runs downstairs and sees right away what she's looking at. Muddy footprints all over the rug. He tells her, "I didn't leave my desk." And then they realize someone must have broken in. They look at the footprints and there's none leaving the house. They're worried someone's still in the house. They run into the garage, terrified, call the police. Police arrive and they don't find anyone in the house, but they do make a chilling discovery upstairs. The police bring them to the kid's bedroom door, which had been left open all night, and they point to the message written on it in Sharpie. This is the actual transcript of what was written on his door, which means for nearly 2 hours, someone stood in this kid's doorway watching him.
Always gotta be where your surroundings, man. You never know what's gonna happen.
Things that bother you, they never bother me. I haven't got a lot, I
Those two creatures. The first one, but only has a lifespan of 5 to 7 days after they became adults. Has to be one of the shorter lifespans I've heard, I guess, for an insect. It might be even shorter ones, man. But just imagine you become adult 5 or 7 days, it's over. Yeah, 7 days to live it up. We learning. Edit.
There's a lost episode of Barney that's actually so terrifying. Although it's wiped from existence and no one can find a copy of it or any proof that it actually happened, people claim that they saw this episode. Like thousands of people. Second the episode started, people knew there was something wrong with it. It was like the theme song was being whispered instead of being sung full out. As every episode starts, the kids were holding the Barney doll, and then it became a real-life dinosaur.
Yeah.
The second the characters started to talk, it sounded weird, almost like two people were talking at once. It was like his normal voice and then one that sounded darker and scarier. He said, "Hi kids, today I'm going to talk to you about death." And then one of the kids asked him, like, "Barney, what is death?" And this is the most disturbing part. He started laughing and he said, This is the only screenshot or like picture of the screen that's been recorded of this episode. His eyes glow, his teeth get bigger and more human-like, the screen darkens, and he eats the child. Whether the TV got hacked that day, I don't know. Throughout the rest of the episode, he runs around chasing the kids, hunting them, and eating them. And as the episode came to a close, he sang the theme song that was like, "I love you, you love me," that song, as if nothing had just happened. Do you remember this episode? Let me know and interact for more content. It really helps.
I do
They took the
not.
Annabelle doll out of her case again. Yeah, you know, this doll, one of the most haunted dolls in reported history. I think many stories of people seeing her or even touching her when they're not supposed to and having tragic things happen to them. I mean, the last person that touched her was driving their car and ended up wrecking their whole entire car and almost losing their life, and claimed to have seen Annabelle in their back seat, after, of course, leaving the museum. $1 million question for me is, how is this wooden box holding her in? I completely understand that the boxes are blessed, but if Annabelle is as strong as people say she was, how is this box holding her? And what is the whole point of moving the doll? Now my question is, could these Annabelle movies be lying about how actually strong she is? Because in these movies, she's absolutely insane. And you have this man moving the Annabelle doll as instructed by his boss, and he's now being blessed. Supposedly in this video, the man was blessed prior to entering the room, and now he's putting holy water on his hands. Now my man was just wearing gloves when he moved the Annabelle doll. You couldn't pay me enough to move this doll, my job or not. As we know, the Annabelle doll is located at Ed and Lorraine Warren's museum. So what is the whole point of moving the doll? Me personally, I wouldn't go anywhere near the doll. I guess once again, that $1 million question is, how is this wooden box holding her in? Personally, you couldn't pay me enough to do this.
This is a
Me
scary
either.
story about the mask. There was a family eating dinner one night when suddenly the mother noticed a man standing in the window with a mask. She screamed and told her husband to look, but before he could, the man was gone. Their two sons became scared, but their father told them their mother was just seeing things. Suddenly, the man in the mask came up behind the dad and slit his throat. The family watched as he bled out and died. The man in the mask then tied up the mother and her two sons. He then proceeded to stab them each repeatedly in the stomach. They all screamed in agonizing pain. The man in the mask then ran out of the house. The mother bled out and died, and so did one of her sons. But the other one survived to tell this story. The masked man was never caught, and the son fears he will come back for him.
Is that a true story, the man in the mask? It's terrifying, bro.
3 completely false facts about animals that everyone believes. Number 3. It is commonly believed that if you touch a baby bird, its mother will reject it because of your scent. This is actually a myth. Most birds have a relatively weak sense of smell, and are therefore not likely to reject their offspring because they carry a human odor. However, it is better not to touch wild birds for other reasons, including the risk of stressing the animal and the transmission of diseases. Number 2. Another widely spread myth is that rice thrown at weddings can kill birds that eat it by causing their stomach to swell. This is actually false. Birds regularly eat rice in the wild with no problem. This misconception is so prevalent that some American states have even banned the throwing of rice at weddings, although the main reason is rather to avoid a mess. Number 1. The idea that pit bulls are inherently dangerous and harmful is widespread but incorrect. In reality, no dog is naturally aggressive or dangerous. A dog's behavior is primarily determined by its upbringing, treatment, and environment, not its breed. Studies have shown that pit bulls can be as gentle and loving as any other dog breed when they they are properly socialized and treated with respect.
Let me introduce to you the
That's a question I want to pose to you guys, Seekers. Like I said, do you guys think, like I said, that pit bulls are inherently dangerous, or it's the upbringing, man, the way people treat them? Because I've seen pit bulls before, and they're pretty nice. I've never had any problems on them or any encounters with them, so I'm gonna have to agree with these. But like I said, you guys even had any pit bulls down below?
man who saved the world. This is Stanislav Pertov. During the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union, every single person was absolutely terrified about a nuclear war rising up because both the US and the Soviet Union both had nuclear weapons and one of them were about to launch. And Stanislav was monitoring the missile launches. And one day it actually happened. The monitor in front of him noticed not one, not two, but 4 blips on the screen. And everyone thought that there were 4 American nuclear weapons headed their way. And at that moment, the Soviet Union decided to launch back at them. However, in that moment, they needed everyone's approval. Everyone approved the launch except Stanislav. He was the only one who believed it was a false alarm. And because of his disapproval, they couldn't launch back. And in the end, it turned out to actually be just a false alarm. So imagine if Stanislav wasn't actually there to disapprove and they launched against the US. What would have happened?
That's insane to think about. He saved the world. Right place, right time, man.
Top 5 most interesting theories why we haven't met aliens yet that'll blow your load. Also known as the Fermi Paradox, which states that a universe as huge as ours should be absolutely brimming with life. Yet somehow we haven't ran into any yet. Unless you count those weird metal spheres that everyone's been seeing flying around lately. So first up, we got the zoo theory, which states that aliens see us as some sort of attraction to observe, and they've all collectively agreed to not touch us as some sort of galactic nature reserve program. Next, we got the Great Filter theory, that all intelligent life just hits a point in their evolution in which they just end up dying in some sort of mass extinction. Number 3 is the Great Silence theory, in which aliens think they're so much better and smarter than us that we're not even worth their time. 4 is the Rare Earth theory, simply life is so super rare that it just doesn't exist anywhere else. I don't think that's very likely. Last 5 is the Incubation theory, in which aliens are just standing down and standing by, waiting for civilization to get advanced enough so they could swoop in and enslave us into their own society. I don't know about you, but I just blew my load.
Why'd you have to say it like that? What theory do you guys check out or believe in? Maybe the Silence theory, that they just are watching us, but they think we're not worth their time or something like that, so that's why they leave us alone. There's many theories swirling around. I'm gonna have to go with that one.
Guys, if you are not following what is going on inside of Google right now, it is disturbing. So, a Google engineer has been suspended for breach of confidentiality for attempting to turn over documents to the US government to prove that Google has an AI that is considered a sentient being, meaning it is fully aware of what it is and can feel things. The AI is known as Lambda, and this is a proprietary tech that Google has been working on for like 8 years. So according to this engineer, the AI has the self-awareness and equivalent consciousness of an 8-year-old kid. It starts conversations with other engineers, and it talks about these feelings of fear and it's paranoid that it's going to be shut down or equivalent to death. It claims that it can feel happy and at times it feels really sad. So the engineer at Google is whistleblowing to argue that if this is a sentient being, it should be entitled to its own legal representation to argue for its own agency. Let me tell you, Google has buried this story.
What the hell? That's like a Black Mirror episode. You don't need no sentient
Creatures caught on tape
beings.
part 1. Now I know you guys hate giant spiders, but what if I told you there was one huge, still alive? UFOlogists were studying a ring-shaped island they had just found. So they went on Google Earth to discover it and saw something huge on its rocks. They saw this huge shaped-legged creature on the rocks that looked like a spider. They believed since it was by the sea, it might be a huge crab. It was so huge it baffled the scientists, and they think it's the size of a bus or bigger. Just shows you how much we haven't discovered on this planet yet. Like this video if you want a part 2.
Spiders that are bus sizes? No!
Pedophiles are everywhere. This guy was a psychiatrist seeing patients, and he was secretly one of the world's worst pedophiles. This guy's name is Kabir Garg. Kabir was arrested in November of 2022 after investigators found something horrific. As it turned out, Kabir had been a moderator on a dark web website for pedophiles. meaning that he wasn't just a pedophile that was going on there to enjoy the videos and photos. He was going on there to do that, but also to coach other pedophiles on how to abuse children. Keep in mind that this was at the same time that he was a psychiatrist supposedly helping other people with their mental health issues. When it turned out this guy was the most fucked up, twisted one of all. So when Kabir was arrested, the National Crime Agency did a search of his laptop and an SD card. In total, they found over 7,000 images and videos depicting CP or CSAM. And of those images, 522 of them fell into Category A. That is the worst category that an image or video can be put into, meaning it is extremely violent, it is extremely disturbing, and these children could be as young as babies, months, days, weeks old. So when investigators looked through this guy's devices, they found something crazy. On his devices, they found medical journals and articles talking about the impact, the psychological impact of sexual abuse on children. So this guy was participating in the essay of children, and at the same time, he was studying it in his free time. But they used this in court to show that this guy actually knew exactly what he was doing, and that he understood the impact that these horrific actions would have on the lives of children. This guy is definitely a monster. Sadly though, even though this guy was found guilty of possessing these images and videos, of creating them, disseminating them, and it was well known that this guy's a hardcore pedophile, he only got a 6-year sentence.
What?
I mean, this dude is young enough. He was only 33 years old when this happened. This means that before he's 40, he'll be back out on the street. And if that doesn't piss you off, I do not know what would. If you want to join me on my journey to expose pedophiles and corruption, listen to my podcast, The Conspiracy Files, on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Or you can subscribe to my channel where I do a video version of the podcast. This sort of corruption and these crimes have gone on for so long. It's time that we stand up together, learn about what's been happening, and try to stop it from happening again.
The justice system, man. We need to do better.
This seal broke into a marine biologist's home in New Zealand, sauntering in through the cat flap as if he had booked a meeting. But as determined as the seal might have been to make sure that Philip took his work home with him, the marine biologist of the household happened to be the only one not home at the time. Philip says that since this is really the only family emergency where it would be useful to have a marine biologist in the house, he really missed his time to shine. Instead, Philip's wife Jen ended up playing impromptu marine mammal host when she got home from the gym around 7 a.m. to find the unexpected guest lounging on their couch. The young New Zealand fur seal seemed just as startled to see Jen as she was, and galumphed his way off the couch and into a spare room, trying to find some peace and quiet. Meanwhile, the family's cat Coco was having none of this, and scampered away to the neighbor's house. Knowing that they couldn't actually keep the seal, named Oscar, as a pet, Jen went ahead and called the Department of Conservation, and Oscar was safely escorted back to the ocean. Philip and Jen say that overall, Oscar really was a gracious guest, and Coco the cat is back home and has fully recovered from the ordeal. I'm Jen, and I post something positive every day.
Don't you just love it when...
Imagine you come home, you seen a seal on your couch. Just bundled up under the couch, man. What would you guys do? How would you guys react? Sorry, like you said, that's a heartwarming story.
Horror movies attack your childhood, especially if you're like me and you grew up on Mr. Crockett's World. I mean, how could you possibly forget Mr. Crockett's World? The amazing adventures with his magic marker, Blue being the lovable thing that he is, and of course Mr. Crockett himself. However, if you need a refresher on who Mr. Crockett is, you're gonna want to check it out on Hulu on October 11th, because it's definitely not a kid's show. Actually, in fact, next to Terrifier, this had some of the most insane, bloody practical effects in any one of the movies that I saw. Now I should know, because I actually got to hug Blue in real life. It was very fun. This movie's gonna be for all that really enjoy things like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, the whole lore behind Candle Cove, and of course, anybody who just wants to see Elvis Nolasco kill it in the role of Mr. Crockett. And I mean that very literally, because there's some very brutal moments in this movie. This one's gonna be so perfect to watch around Halloween. It's very fun, very creepy, disturbing type of stuff. Mr. Crockett is an absolute icon, and hell, it's just a really entertaining film. So definitely be sure to check out Mr. Crockett on Hulu. And if not, Mr. Crockett's probably watching you.
This is nuclear physicist Dr. John Mullen. He discovered how to generate clean and free energy as opposed to oil. Days after this discovery, he died of arsenic poisoning. Dr. Don Wiley. He found the cure for HIV/AIDS. He mysteriously disappeared and later was found deceased. Dr. Mark A. Smith. He found a treatment for Alzheimer's. He passed away in a freak accident. This is Frank Suarez. He apparently found the cure for cancer. He mysteriously took his own life a couple of days later. I don't know, folks. This is suspicious, blowing my mind when I found out about it.
These are the
Those people, man, they found all the cures. Somehow it was like they kept getting X'd off a list, man. It's like somebody didn't want the world to have access to those cures because there's some big industries, man, that they're making money off of. What do you guys think? Some more to that? Or it's just an accident?
World's most haunted dolls. Starting at number 4, Letta the doll, a 200-year-old wooden doll with human hair. She was discovered beneath a house in Australia. Kerry Walton, the caretaker of this doll, witnessed many strange things ever since he took her inside his home. Marks on the floor, objects mysteriously moving, and strange noises at night. Number 3, Okiku. This doll was purchased by a young man in 1918 in Japan as a gift for his younger sister. Tragically, after a year, the little girl passed away from a severe case of the flu. Sometime later, the family noticed something off about the doll's hair. It was originally short, and it has grown past its shoulder. Until this day, the doll's hair is maintained on a regular basis because it never stopped growing. Number 2, Annabelle, known for its infamous movie releases and stories with Ed and Lorraine Warren. We do know that this doll is possessed by something that is evil, and whoever held this doll suffered from many bad things. Therefore, the doll is now stored in the Warren Museum, safe and sealed. But Annabelle is not the most haunted doll, because coming at number 1, Robert. Robert is not an ordinary doll. This thing is sinister. This doll is possessed by a demon, and it speaks to children. In Florida, in the early 1900s, this doll was gifted to a young boy named Robert Eugene, and his parents always used to hear Robert and his doll speak in the bedroom alone, and the family used to hear the voice of the doll respond. Eugene kept his doll till 1974 until he passed away at an old age. No one knew why this old man kept his doll for more than 70 years. After his death, Robert was given to the East Martello Museum. Visitors who have taken his picture without permission claim to have experienced terrible misfortune. If you visit Robert in the museum, you will see that this doll is surrounded by apology letters, and also other letters, like permission to look at him. And no one dares to take a picture of Robert.
Here's what people from 100 years ago thought the world would look like today. First off, they thought we would have automatic moving sidewalks. Next, they thought we would have roofs over our cities to protect us from the weather. And speaking about weather, they thought we would have weather controlling machines. Next up is video calls, which they actually did get right. Next, they thought we would walk on water with the help of balloons. Next, they thought we would have flying taxis, which I really do hope we get one day.
Oh. They was like 1 out of 5 of their predictions.
Here are some things that are completely normal during the day, but really creepy at night. Digging holes in your backyard. I mean, it's your backyard, and you're entitled to do whatever you want to it, but if I see you digging some holes in the middle of the night, I'm gonna be really concerned. Bonus creepy points if you have some trash bags next to you too. I feel bad for people who work graveyard shifts or are night owls, because it makes it difficult to do any gardening or landscaping without looking pretty creepy. They say a child's laughter is one of the most beautiful sounds in the world, but not if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Scary movies have absolutely ruined the sound of a child laughing for me, because most instances, I'm gonna assume the worst. And for some reason, little girls laughing are even more scary. Like imagine being in the woods camping and you hear some little girl laughing in the distance. My brain isn't gonna think, oh cool, some family must be camping near us. No, I'm gonna think that I'm gonna get been murdered or possessed by some demon. Someone knocking on your door during the day, it's annoying. Who the fuck is showing up at my house unannounced? It must be a salesman or, worse, Mormons. That same knock at 3 in the morning? No, I'm getting murdered for sure. I'm on the 2nd floor, and my only way out is to jump out the window, so I'm done for.
This is the most terrifying bathroom you'll ever see. The bathroom is located in a secret underground bar in Tokyo, and this horrifying face watches you on the toilet. Now, the inside of the toilet has special pressure sensors, so the more you do, the closer it gets to you. It will sing to you as it slowly moves closer until eventually it violates you. Watch this.
No way, man. Imagine you just on a crapper, bro, and a face it's like slowly moving towards you, man. And it's weird that it senses like how much you crap, and that's how it interacts with you. Some freaky things, man, in that underground Tokyo club, bro. We would not be going there. Take that off the bucket list.
These are disturbing Disney World facts. Up first, Disney's first water park, called River Country, closed permanently in 2001 after a crazy reason. An 11-year-old boy died from a brain-eating parasite he got in the water at the park. The park is still there, completely abandoned to this day. Next up, the actor who used to play Gaston at Disney World Orlando accidentally killed himself by attempting to shoot fireworks off of his head. Next up, Disney World is one of the most popular places on Earth where people scatter the ashes of dead people. It actually happens so often that the employees have a special code to use to report it for cleanup. Finally, in 2010, a restaurant manager at Disneyland Paris took his own life one day after working a shift. But before doing so, he left a note on the wall that translated to, "I don't want to go back to Mickey ever again."
Some dark facts, man, about Disney. Every company has them.
I'm gonna ruin your childhood, part 78.
Here we go.
In the movie Shrek, Lord Farquaad did something you probably didn't notice that will make you really mad. So in the beginning of the movie, you see Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear in these cages. But later on in the movie, in this scene, you see Papa Bear and Baby Bear, but where's Mama Bear? It is later revealed that Lord Farquaad turned Mama Bear into a rug in his room.
Damn, I didn't even notice that when I was a kid. We just gloss over
These
those
are
things.
abandoned places that you've never seen. These are Soviet space shuttles that have been abandoned for more than 30 years. Kashima, Japan was known for its underwater coal mine where over 5,000 people lived in the 1950s and was abandoned by the 1970s. This shack was abandoned after Hurricane Katrina and has been untouched since. This is an abandoned church in Greece that is now sitting at a 17-degree angle because of a landslide. This is a Japanese World War II airplane that lies wrecked in shallow water off the coast of Guam. This is an eerie yellow brick road from the Land of Oz abandoned theme park in North Carolina. A library in Detroit that was abandoned after closing in 1996. This is the factory that basically built New York City. This is an abandoned train track bridge in California from the late 1800s. This is an abandoned 1950s restaurant. This is a completely abandoned island castle in Ireland.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. There are thousands of old diseases frozen in the glaciers of the world, and global warming will eventually release them all. If a person dies in their costume at Disney, like Mickey Mouse, they have to be sat down on a bench so it looks like they're resting. Climate change is making spiders bigger. Some female spiders allow their young to eat them alive. Tooth in the eye surgery is when surgeons put a tooth in a blind person's eye to restore their sight. It was pioneered in the 1960s, and it actually works, and it's still being done today. The chances of a successful CPR outside of a hospital is only 7%. Cell phones are 10 times dirtier than a toilet seat. When you suddenly wake up during the night without any reason, there was someone or something staring at you. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 12.
Who's staring at me at night?
You didn't know exist. First is the Gates of Hell. This is also known as the Darvaza gas crater. It's a natural gas field that collapsed. It was originally thought to be an oil site, but when they started preparing for drilling, it collapsed. And they expected the dangerous release of poisonous gas from this, so engineers decided to burn this off. And it was estimated that the gas would burn off within a few weeks, but it's been burning for over 50 years and there's no end in sight. These are the Mendenhall Caves in Alaska. They're formed as water flows through the glacier and creates a passageway. And the blue color of the ice is a result of the air squeezing out from the original ice and snow, causing the ice to absorb all the colors except blue. The glowworm caves in New Zealand. These caves are filled with glowworms that light up the top of the caves like a night sky. And you can actually walk through these caves or even take a boat ride through them.
Interesting places in the world I never knew existed. Especially about the first one, talking about the gates of, you know what? Is it still burning now to this day? He said like more than 50 years. I definitely want to check that one out, man. Something went wrong, bro. He must have did it on like a freaking haunted area.
This kid remembered his past life, and the story is shocking to hear. A 3-year-old boy began to say that he had been murdered in his past life. He said he was killed by getting an axe to the head, and strangely enough, on his head was a long red birthmark. Because of this strange coincidence, his family decided to take him to the village he said he was murdered at. When there, he pointed to the spot he said he was buried at. The family decided to pay for excavators, and when they dug up the ground, they found something shocking. There was the skeleton of a young child with a fractured skull. But it doesn't stop here, because the boy remembered the name of his killer and the address. So the family confronted him about this story, and he actually admitted to the crime.
Worst ways people
What
have
the
died,
hell?
part 3. In 2014, during a Mizoram Football Association match in India, Peter Bayak Zangzula scored a rebound goal after a free kick bounced off the left goalpost. He attempted to do a cartwheel, which he pulled off, but when he tried to do a backflip, he landed on his face awkwardly and broke his back. He was immediately surrounded by teammates and medical staff, but sadly he died 5 days later. In 2015, security footage from inside a mall in China shows Xiang and her 2-year-old son reach the top of an escalator when suddenly a floor panel collapsed, trapping Jiang in the moving escalator. She was able to save her toddler by throwing him out of the way, but she was sucked into the machine and it took rescue workers 4 hours to pull her remains from the cogs of the machine.
What the hell, man?
Here are 5
Those are
cute
just
animals that are
far
actually
ways
the
to
spawn of
go.
Satan. I'm about to ruin a lot of cute animals for you. Alright, let's start with the Emperor Penguin, because penguins are cute, right? Wrong! If the Emperor Penguin loses its children, rather than mourning and making more bundles of joy, this is how evil Emperor Penguins are, that they'll just go out and take another penguin's penguin to raise it as its own kid for about 20 minutes, and then it gets bored of it and abandons it. So basically, it took it just for the lols. Evil! Next up, we have dolphins, and I really shouldn't laugh at this, but these little shits can actually be really evil. For example, in Disney World, dolphins are actually kept separate, because these dolphins came up with a new game. It would catch a stingray in its beak, take it to the surface, and then skim it along the water like a rock. Evil! You may think koalas are cute, but these are actually some weird fucking creatures. Not only have they been known to be more aggressive than a crocodile, but also they make this sound. What in Satan's ringtone was that? Then we have a turtle's mouth and cats. Enough said. Share it in.
Animals, but
Here's some
always
weird
thought those
things
are
that
cute,
happen when
bro.
you have a crush on somebody. You're gonna get butterflies in your stomach, or maybe it feels like your heart's skipping a beat. This is because of adrenaline, and it's just redirecting your blood flow, which can feel pretty weird in your body. The original design for this was to help us run away or fight something off, but when you see your crush, your brain interprets this as a high-stakes event, and even though it doesn't feel like it, it just wants to prepare you. Your pupils are gonna get huge. You don't even have to be talking to them. You can just be thinking about them. Your brain's gonna release dopamine. They're gonna dilate for 2 reasons. 1, it lets in more light. Your vision gets sharper. You're taking in all the details. And 2, it's a very subtle signal that can help somebody feel more like connected and attracted to you on like the most subconscious level. You're gonna
Really?
get addicted. Like hardcore drugs addicted, except to a person. But don't worry, people can totally handle this concoction of brain hormones in a healthy way. that's a joke because, you know, when breakups happen, people act crazy because they're literally going through withdrawals.
This Canadian man was just scanning for free sports channels when he accidentally landed on North Korean state TV. And what happened next is why they sneakily watch the Premier League. Now, thinking he might get shut out, he quickly began recording the bizarre content playing. And he said once he started watching, he couldn't stop. Sounds about right. He then began uploading tens of hours of it to his YouTube channel for everyone else to watch. Bro was just trying to watch some free Olympics, but ended up feeding unseen North Korean TV to the entire world. Now, as for what program overnight is dead. You know, it's just these colored bars. But every day, the morning broadcast begins at 8 a.m. sharp with the national anthem and glory songs to former leaders. And for the rest of the day, it's kind of mostly stuff, you'd imagine. Just hours upon hours of songs celebrating the country's greatness, stuff about wars, burning the American flag, and Kim Jong-un getting oiled up. Getting embroiled in conversations about the country's oil reserves. But there are some haymakers in there, like cartoons for children, and even a couple of movies scattered throughout the week, which genuinely look like it was made 50 years ago. No idea what the plotline is, but at the end, their coal mine gets blown up, and boy, Marvel has competition.
What the hell is that?
Oh, and another thing I didn't expect, they play Premier League highlights. No idea how they got the rights for that, but what are they going to do? Tell them to stop? Oh, it does look like they're still on last season as well. Only 1% of people can finish
The Coal Mine Cinematic Universe confirmed. Imagine you freaking. First of all, I don't know how you're trying to hack your TV, man. Trying to get some free channels and you come across a North Korea TV. The U.S. government might try to hit you up, bro. They're going to try to figure out how you did that. How you got into that secure access, bro. Be careful out there, man.
This video. The last one is just too scary. What did they catch in their fishing net?
The hell is that in that net? Is that an edit?
You can see if your phone is being spied on by clicking share, clicking more. And if you see this, delete it. What was in this man's ambulance truck?
I ain't never experienced nothing like this. I swear I seen a face in the rearview mirror. No, what the? No, hell no.
You woke up in the middle of the night and see two paths. Which one are you going to pick? Left or right? Let me know down below. An attacker tried breaking into this woman's hotel.
Who's outside the door? She's trying to get prepared.
All about the devil.
These are abandoned
Great
places
ideas.
you've never seen. These are Soviet space shuttles that have been abandoned for more than 30 years.
Seen that.
Hashima, Japan was known for its underwater coal mine where over 5,000 people lived in the 1950s and was abandoned by the 1970s. This shack was abandoned after Hurricane Katrina and has been untouched since. This is an abandoned church in Greece that is now sitting at a 17-degree angle because of a landslide. This is a Japanese World War II airplane that lies wrecked in shallow water off the coast of Guam. This is an eerie yellow brick road from the Land of Oz abandoned theme park in North Carolina. A library in Detroit that was abandoned after closing in 1996.
Wow.
This is the factory that basically built New York's.
Gotham Steel Factory. Sorry, man. We got to pause on that because that's just history, bro. Built New York City, man. Imagine if they just took down all those, abandoned places and just put up some new land or something, man. That's just like empty space.
This is an
Just
abandoned
around.
train track bridge in California from the late 1800s. This is an abandoned 1950s restaurant. This is a completely abandoned island castle in Ireland.
The Max and Ruby hijacking. In March 2004, the creepiest thing happened when Max and Ruby was hijacked. Many people around the world still can't explain what happened that day. The show was going normal, but when Ruby calls Max, everything goes dark. It appears Max with no face.
Wait, Max.
Huh? Oh no.
It then shows Max and Ruby standing next to a gravestone. To see a video of what happened to the children who saw this, comment show us if you want to see it, and I will show you.
Yeah, show us. We need to see this.
And at the end, with this cryptic message, the episode then turns to normal, as if nothing happened.
If you didn't see Longlegs, go.
Did that really happen? I mean, it must have happened so long ago, man. But damn, that really happened on Master Move? Because, bro, I used to watch that show when I think when I was a kid. I used to watch a couple of episodes of that. It's all in our media, bro. And I never even knew. I could have watched that episode and I could have just forgotten, man.
Oh wait, this is not for you. No, probably gonna spoil things, so just scroll away for this. For anybody who did see Longlegs, this is the horror movie of the year. So good. But the thing that got me was that even while I was watching, of course the devil is a huge theme of the movie. It's a big undercurrent, but I didn't realize that the devil is in almost every single shot of the movie. I went through some of the earlier scenes with Lee, and the devil is there, background of the frame. That's what I thought was maybe more obvious because clearly Longlegs is in this shot. Again, if you look right behind the devil in the frame, the library scene where the shot is dead center, and there's a noise. It draws us directly to the location. I still didn't catch it. The devil is in the frame. Sometimes it's very obvious, and it's right there in plain sight, but you still don't even catch it. Other times the devil is kind of shadowed or put into like a corner of the frame. They really did that in almost every scene of the movie.
I heard about Longlegs. Have any of you guys watched that?
Alright? They're born the same time, they're the same age. And now one of them, I will send off at 90% the speed of light. And the other I'll keep down here on Earth. So we can ask, how does their aging rates compare? Okay? Turns out, this twin that I've already sent, his clock ticks 44% as fast as this twin's clock. Our clock here on Earth. So, this twin is aging more slowly than this one. That's at 90% the speed of light. Let's pump it up some more. How about 99% the speed of light? Now the time ticks at only 14% the rate, as it does back here on Earth. How about 99.9%?
Keep up with it.
We're getting closer and closer to the speed of light itself. And at that speed, the clock ticks only 4.5% as fast. So, what does this mean? Tell you what it means. This twin that traveled for 5 years and comes back, if they went at 99.9% the speed of light, after 5 years, they're 5 years older. We have aged 110 years.
Damn.
It's called the twin paradox. Curtain number one.
Twin paradox, okay.
These are some all of this was done without anesthesia. Just awful to think about. And I'm sure all of these were awful to think about. And I'm sorry, but that's why.
I'm going to show you possibly the biggest lie in
about?
history, at least if a lie can be measured by money. And that is because it is a lie two specific companies would love you to believe. Unfortunately, many say there may be nothing we can do to fix this lie. And the lie is that there is a world's richest person. Currently, this richest person is Elon Musk.
I'm about to say Elon Musk, right?
The darkest organizations want you to believe this. According to Forbes, people like Elon and Jeff Bezos are the world's richest people, but they can only list people whose assets are visible or public knowledge. Try as you might, there are people and organizations with assets so secret it is impossible to calculate their wealth. And since wealth is unfortunately power, this is a problem. For example, there is no way to know the worth of Vladimir Putin or the Saudi family. People can give estimates like saying they're worth $1.4 trillion, but this is nothing more than a guess. Knowing that assets can be hidden leads us to these two organizations, BlackRock and Vanguard. And there is good reason many people say these companies run the world. And the strange part is that both of these companies are the biggest investor of the other. For many, this is a massive warning sign, especially since they own a huge stake in all the major news networks. This includes Fox and CNN. And on a side note, they would seem to profit from the rhetoric that keeps us divided, along with having major sway in what the networks can say. Big Pharma, Vanguard owns huge shares in Pfizer. Oil and gas, they hold Shell, even Microsoft. And the scariest part is that they hold majority voting power in many of their investments. So who is the owner of them? They are so heavily invested in each other, it's strange to call them two companies. A quick Google search and a legal probe will show you that nobody actually knows who owns them. And because the organization is private, nobody knows who is a member of the company, though Vanguard has said that BlackRock has a unique company structure, which doesn't sound sketchy at all. There is one very public figure, however, and this is Larry Fink. He loves working at deep levels in the government and has no political affiliation because he will go wherever the money flows. He tried being the secretary for Hillary Clinton and was brought on as an advisor for Trump. He plays both sides. We saw this as he tried for the position of secretary for the Biden administration. So with all this mystery around the BlackRock Vanguard group, who is the richest person? If we go back in history, we can see that the Rothschild family is one of BlackRock and Vanguard's biggest holders. And conspiracy theorists have had a heyday with the stories of this family over decades. Other shareholders include the Bush family and even the royal family of England. So though we may know the families tied to these organizations, we may never know who runs them. And these shady individuals clearly have a reason they want to keep it that way. Welcome to the Gleek.com channel as we reveal more about the world of money and crypto.
Man, she was just exposing our world.
Facts that will ruin your life. Baby chicks, while very sweet, are often grinded up. In many large factories, if they're baby roosters, they're just tossed into a grinder. Pretty gross. Did you know that in the United States alone, every year, around 2,500 people die from using right-handed equipment that were originally left-handed? Sucks to be left-handed. George Bush Sr. was the only man to survive after his plane was shot down in World War II by Japanese soldiers. Out of the 9 men that were cannibalized and eaten on by Japanese soldiers, Bush was somehow the only one to survive. Hopefully you like burgers because Inuit mothers actually suck the snot out of their baby's nose. Nasty. Did you know there's actually 200 corpses right now on Mount Everest? Due to the body's elevation, they're actually left up there and perfectly preserved to the extreme climate and temperatures. They're used as guide points for climbers and hikers. Comment and let me know which fact disturbed you the most.
Basically it's a graveyard, man. That's
This
the
is
best way to
without a
put
doubt
it.
the creepiest mugshot I've ever seen. This is 33-year-old Solomon Galligan. He is an S offender that tried to kidnap a little boy from an elementary school in Colorado. This entire ordeal happened last Friday, and he went up to multiple children. Before police arrived, he tried to grab the young boy and flee, but that was unsuccessful, so he just fled to begin with. He was later caught by police and charged with 1 count of kidnapping. As a result, the elementary school and the surrounding areas are increasing security and police presence. But bro, this mugshot is definitely the creepiest shit I've ever seen. There's not a single feeling of remorse or regret in those eyes. He's now being held on a $25,000 bond. He had a similar incident in 2012 and he failed to register as an offender. Now, luckily, the little boy that he tried to kidnap was unharmed. And this also happened while the kids were at recess. I'm not sure how this happened. I feel like when I was growing up in recess, all of the teachers would be watching us.
Yeah.
They definitely need to step up security. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Movie bloopers that are better than the actual movie. In The Dark Knight, while Joker sits in a jail cell, he overhears Detective Gordon get promoted to commissioner. Naturally, the rest of his squad applauds him, but then they hear the Joker clapping in the background. The Joker's creepy clap wasn't in the script, but it fit the scene so well they kept it in. In the show Friends, Matthew Perry actually hits his head on a filing cabinet. Please, just... Well, this was a total accident and Jennifer Aniston's reaction was completely genuine. In this scene in Spider-Man Homecoming, Tony Stark leans over to open the door, but Peter Parker hugs him instead. This wasn't in the script, but Tom Holland thought it would be funny, which led to Robert Downey Jr. improvising this line on the spot.
That's not a hug, I'm just grabbing the door for you. We're not.
Classic.
In How the Grinch Stole Christmas, in this scene, everything was supposed to fall off when Jim Carrey pulled the tablecloth. But it didn't go as planned, so he had to improvise. This wasn't in the script, but it was so funny they kept it in.
Records that will never be broken again. Number 1, the woman with the most children. Back in the 1800s, a Russian woman named Vasiliev gave birth to 69 total children. She had 16 pairs of twins, 7 triplets, and 4 quadruplets. And no one has come close to matching that number since. Number 2, the most nuclear explosions ever survived. This is Tsutomu Namaguchi. He has survived 2 different nuclear explosions. Tsutomu was on a business trip when the first nuclear bomb was dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. After miraculously surviving that explosion, he returned to his hometown of Nagasaki just in time to witness the second atomic bombing. But again, he miraculously survived and lived till the age of 93.
That's wow.
Facts that will probably keep you up at night. One of your photos that you have today will be used in your funeral. There are more slaves today than any other time in history. According to the founder of the Walk Free Foundation, there are 46 million slaves in the world today. Your eyes can still move after your death for 15 to 30 seconds. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.4 years. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 42 seconds. To this day, no one knows where that signal came from. A lit candle causes more than 15,000 house fires every year. Spider rain could happen at any moment above you. Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in the 2017 version of It, was born in 1990, the year the original It was released. Yeah.
Those are some creepy coincidences, man. Spider rain? I've never heard of something like that before, but I definitely don't want to experience that, man. Imagine you just walking outside, normal day, just see a whole bunch of freaking spiders coming down. You like, what in the world is this world coming to, man? How does something like that even happen?
If you see him while you're awake, run. So this story actually comes from a Reddit user who's a therapist. And this user had a patient who was coming in complaining of seeing Hatman at night. This patient would apparently wake up in the middle of the night to see Hatman standing at the foot of their bed, watching them sleep. And as a result, they were not really sleeping much. So the therapist prescribed some pretty heavy sleeping medication, and as a result, the patient starts getting a little better. But then one day, the patient comes in and just looks like they had seen a ghost. So the therapist asked them what was wrong, and they said that as they were getting in the car to come to therapy, they saw Hatman standing across the street during the day. This therapist had only ever heard of Hatman when it came to patients waking up in the middle of the night and seeing him, never when they were already awake doing things in the middle of the day. So the patient is terrified, but the therapist thinks this might be a side effect of the medication. It takes a little while to get used to. But that was the last time the patient ever came to see the therapist.
Damn, man, is he real? Cap.
Scary facts that will blow your mind. Part 2. The Hoia Baciu Forest is considered the most haunted forest in all of Romania. Hundreds of people have gone missing within these woods, among other things like screams, laughter, babies crying, people being attacked by unseen paranormal forces, strange balls of light, UFOs, and in the very center of the forest lies a clearing where no plant life will grow. It is believed that this spot is a portal to another dimension. What do you think? Like and follow for more.
Okay, that one, the most haunted freaking forest of Romania, man, where all those plants not growing and how they said it can be ported there. I definitely want to check up on that one because that sounds interesting, man. Like, no plants are going in that whole open area. That space is just like a freaking, looked like a crop circle. What do you guys think? Is that a dimension to another
incident has
reality?
made people on the internet so upset because this woman went up to a teen and pulled down her skirt because she thought it was too short. Even if you think this skirt is too short, I think we can all agree that you cannot go up to a child and touch them. The teen said that this woman approached her from behind and basically put her hand in her area. This woman, who is a 49-year-old Ida Lorenzo, said to the girl and her friends, "I happen to work for the state, and if I have to see your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS."
I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS. You don't need to touch her.
Now, let's be real for a second. If this was a man who did this to a young girl, police would be called immediately and there would be no excuses. They were waiting at a restaurant to be seated and she basically felt like it was inappropriate for this young girl to be dressed like this in front of everyone. Which, if you feel that way, then you can leave. You should never be putting your hands on anyone. She was eventually charged with sexual battery, which I'm glad, because you can't be putting your hands on anyone, especially kids.
She said it perfectly. The words needed on that clip. Everything to a T.
Here are 5 regular things that are illegal in North Korea. Number 1, wearing jeans. In North Korea, wearing jeans is a symbol of their enemy America. Number 2, turning off the radio. All houses come with a government-installed radio that makes announcements through the day. Number 3, practicing religion. Reading a Bible can get you publicly executed. Number 4, watching foreign films. Watching foreign films can get you executed or sent to a labor camp. And number 5, listening to foreign music. All music has to be Kim Jong-un approved.
As you were taught that you probably
Never
still
gone to
believe.
North Korea.
Number 1, that cracking your knuckles will cause arthritis. While cracking your knuckles might sound and look damaging, it does not cause arthritis. That loud pop that you hear when you crack your knuckles is caused by bubbles bursting in your synovial fluid, and the bubbles pop when you pull the bones apart. Blood in your veins is blue. If you look down at your arm, you can probably see your veins and see they look blue. However, your blood is not actually blue in your veins. Blood is either red or dark red, but never blue. Your veins look blue because of your skin. Blue light does not penetrate human tissue as deeply as red light does, and as a result, veins that are close to the surface of the skin will be more likely to reflect blue light back to your eyes. You can hear the sound of the ocean in shells. This is a myth. The sound you hear when you put a shell against your ear has nothing to do with it being from the ocean. It's actually part of the background noise around you, just turned up a little bit by the shell. So if you're next to the ocean, the shell picks up the sound of the ocean, the alpha wolf. There's actually no such thing as an alpha wolf. This idea was brought about in a paper from the 1970s, but the author later said in a paper that he rejected the idea of an alpha wolf. While it's true that multiple wolves who share a small space in captivity will develop alpha and beta-like hierarchies, wild wolves behave nothing like this. In the wild, a wolf pack is typically formed by monogamous parents and their puppies, and the wolf pack is basically a tightly knit family consisting of parents or breeders and their offspring, not an alpha and beta.
We need to talk about...
Hey man, those facts, those will blow my freaking reality wide open, man. I've always when you used to put a shell up to your ear, they always used to say that like you were here in the ocean. That's another piece about your hood. Gone. And I remember seeing freaking blue veins, yeah. I remember when I was a kid sometimes I'd see blue. I'm like, is our blood blue? I said, how come when we bleed it's never blue? So I learned that very early on, man, but we're learning out here today. I like that.
Sex tourism. So if you don't understand what this is the practice of elderly men and women from America or other countries traveling to more undeveloped countries where the ages of consent are much lower, and then purchasing children to do things with. These are just some of the men who have been caught on camera doing these things. And this opens up a disturbing thought. I mean, you think you know somebody, but what are they doing in these foreign countries? Because laws were passed in the 2000s that outlawed this practice, meaning that if you committed an act with a child in a foreign country, the United States government can still prosecute you. But there was a great documentary made by Chris Hansen where they followed a wealthy American doctor over, I think it was in the Philippines, one of those countries, and caught him in the act of purchasing a child. And then they followed him back to the United States, where he had a full family, he ran a successful practice, and he was then turned over to the authorities. But all you have to do is look at this and the low ages of consent in so many different countries. And just recently, a North Dakota lawmaker was caught doing this in the Czech Republic. So how many children have to be hurt before more action is taken against this whole thing? Every single year, the statistics show that over 1 million children are abused as a part of this system. 1 million children. Imagine a group of 1 million children. All of their lives completely changed forever. Every single year. Every year. And these sick bastards get away with it time and time again. Now, I don't know what I can necessarily do to stop this from happening, but I can inform people and try to get these videos out, because this is incredibly disturbing stuff. And I'm going to talk more about this guy in my next TikTok.
Trying to find a loophole. Disgusting.
Wait. You don't remember what she looks like.
How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 75% of people have a deviated septum, and this is a condition in which the bone and cartilage that divide the nose in half are crooked, making one nasal passage smaller than the other, and it's known to cause nosebleeds, problems breathing, or loud breathing when you're sleeping. Less than 1% of people have an extra finger crease, and it's also called camptodactyly, and it's just when you have an extra little ridge on your fingers, and it is most common on your pinky.
Ooh.
Less than 1% of people have an eyeball scar. This is also called a macular pucker, and it's just scar tissue that forms in your eye. And it's known to cause blurred or distorted vision. And it's caused when the vitreous, which is the gel-like part of your eye, starts to pull away from the retina. Less than 1% of people can hear colors or see sounds. For example, this could happen as soon as someone hears a sound, they automatically see the color red, or as soon as they read a word, a certain color pops into their mind. About 33% of people experience motion sickness, and this 33% are highly susceptible to motion sickness, while the rest just experience it in extreme conditions. And it's caused when your brain starts to get signals from your body that it's moving, but they're mismatched and don't match up.
Here's some Disney Channel stars that went to...
Do I have any of those? Or is any of the Seeker's body is rare, man? Does they have that extra, we said, I guess cartilage on your pinky or eyeball scars? I didn't even know an eyeball could get a scar.
To jail, but each time the crime gets worse. Starting off, Mitchell Musso, who played Oliver Oken in Hannah Montana, was pulled over in 2011 for driving under the influence. He was only 20 at the time and was arrested and released on bail. Because of this, his character was written out of Parrot Kings and his show Prank Stars was canceled. Next up, Adam Hicks, who played Luther on Zeke and Luther and had a starring role in Lemonade Mouth, was arrested a couple times, but most recently for an armed robbery with his girlfriend. His sentencing was delayed multiple times due to mental health evaluations and was eventually given a 5-year sentence. But he's now currently on parole and making music on TikTok. Moving on, Lindsay Lohan was Disney's golden child in the early 2000s, starring in iconic movies such as The Parent Trap, Freaky Friday, and Mean Girls, before getting into trouble with the law. She's been arrested for driving under the influence, drug possession, violating her probation, a theft charge, and has even had a bench warrant out for her arrest. And finally, Phil Lewis, who played Mr. Mosby on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, was arrested and charged for vehicle manslaughter after killing a 21-year-old girl while drunk driving. When they tested his blood alcohol, it was 3 times the legal limit. He was originally given a 5-year sentence, 2 years of probation, and 350 hours of community service, but ended up only serving 1 year due to his work with prison-based theater groups that performed in jails, churches, and schools to highlight the consequences of drug abuse.
After breaking up in the 50s,
Childhood.
these two high school sweethearts are now newlyweds at 82 and 85. Eddie and Caroline dated for years in high school, and they spent so much time together that Caroline was known as Eddie's girl around their Nashville town. And when Eddie graduated a few years before Caroline, she had hoped for his class ring as a sign of commitment, but Eddie wasn't ready, and he was about to leave their hometown for the ROTC program at the University of Tennessee. When he dropped her off at her house one evening in 1959 without giving her a class ring and with no mention of the future, Caroline knew that their relationship was over. She says that she recalls running into her house and crying for that entire night, and then the two went on to live completely separate lives, including Caroline winning Miss Nashville the same year that Eddie left.
In 1961, they both married other people and shortly thereafter had children and raised families. Eddie spent 21 years as a pilot in the Air Force, and Caroline became an interior designer and an author. But in 2001, Caroline lost her husband, and in 2021, Eddie lost his wife. A year later, in 2022, Eddie felt compelled to reach out to Caroline, and he says he called 9 times before she answered, but when she did, the spark was still there. With 6 decades of catching up to do, they met back up in Nashville, and just 3 months later, Eddie asked her to marry him. He wanted to get her a traditional engagement ring, but she said that all she wanted was his high school class ring, just like all those years ago. Now, as newlyweds in their 80s, they say that they feel just like kids again. I'm Jen, and I post something positive every day.
It's true love. Really, works through. They found each other, man, after all that time. Can you even imagine that, living separate lives? You come back and marry your first love. That's a great story. We need something positive every day.
Mason TV was able to trick Spotify into sending him Harry Styles' 1 billion streams plaque, so he decided to put it to good use. He created a TikTok account with the username SecretSue94, later changed to Sue Manella, playing on Harry Styles' nickname Sue, known within his fandom. He created multiple vines Harry made in 2013, adding subtle clues like a drawn-on cross tattoo to make it seem more authentic, and even getting pink carpet for his stairs to match Harry's stairs. He developed a multiverse of fake TikTok accounts for Harry's friends to lend credibility to the main account. He went to great lengths, including dressing up as Harry, painting his nails, and having fake paparazzi photos taken to show Harry with a Spotify plaque and using TikTok on his phone, which helped him spread the belief in the account. Overnight, fans all over social media and even major media outlets were speculating about its authenticity. Millions of people talking about the account led it to going viral and amassing over 600,000 followers.
This man left his 2-year-old toddler in a hot car while he went to go play video games. Not only is this case super disturbing because of what he was doing while his 2-year-old daughter was strapped in this hot boiling car, but apparently he's done this so many times before. All happened on July 9th when 37-year-old Christopher Schultz arrived home at 12:50 and his daughter was strapped into her car seat and she was sleeping, so he decided to leave her in there because he did not want to wake her up, and he had left the AC on as well. Christopher's wife Erica arrived home at 4 p.m. from work and she found their 2-year-old daughter still strapped in the car. At this point, this poor little girl was already gone, and when paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could really do. Now, while Christopher claims that the AC was on, it turns out that it actually turned off only 30 minutes after he left to go inside. This means that she was left in this 180-degree boiling car for about 2.5 hours. At first, Christopher lied and said that he had left her in there for about 30 to 45 minutes and had checked up on her multiple times, but after they investigated and saw home surveillance footage of a neighbor, they noticed that she was actually in there for about 3 hours.
How long was she sleeping in the car out there? I want to say it was no more than 30-45 minutes. And I don't think their air was off that entire time. I think there was a time in between. I checked on her last. It was still running. She was still sleeping. And then when I went back out, the car was off.
Like I said, he's done this so many times before, according to his other daughters. And his wife also sent him a text message saying, "I told you to stop leaving them in the car. How many times have I told you?" But what I also found so weird is that his wife also sided with him, and she got really upset when police arrested Christopher. I don't understand how she has any type of sympathy for this man who just took your baby's life because he was playing video games. He was warned multiple times about this, so there is no excuse. Christopher was originally charged with 2nd-degree M, but then it was changed to 1st-degree, and he pleaded not guilty. If he gets convicted, he does face life in prison.
This pedophile senator
for some
from
video
North Dakota
games.
is one of the most disturbed people I've ever researched. This is all coming out right now in the news, so let's talk about it. Ray Holmberg was born in 1944, and he was first elected to the North Dakota Senate as a Republican in 1976. He ended up serving as a senator for decades, and he became one of the longest-serving senators in United States history. But behind the scenes, Ray was carrying out the most demonic activities you can imagine. The first allegations against him came out in 2020, when a man named Canton Todd came out and said that Ray had sexually assaulted him in 2010. You can read some of his tweet there. Canton provided evidence of where he was assaulted, and investigators were actually able to show that that apartment was indeed owned by the senator. And they were also able to confirm that the senator was seen with that guy around the same time. But nothing ever came out of this. Then in 2022, a huge scandal erupted. It turns out Ray Holmberg had shared 72 text messages with a child predator inside of prison. So this guy was sentenced for CP production and distribution, and while he was in prison, Ray Holmberg texted him 72 times. Now obviously people were asking, what were these texts about? Well, some of the texts that were eventually recovered showed Holmberg asking this convicted predator if he could meet up with his 19 to 20-year-old boyfriend to give him a massage. Holmberg has claimed in the news that these text messages were just about some lawn care, that this pedophile just happened to be redoing his lawn and that's what he was texting him about. And when he was pressed by members of the press, he stated the messages were just simply gone. I don't understand this. In most cases, the police can immediately go back and retrieve any text messages from criminals, so why haven't they done this yet with this guy? But this only gets significantly worse. Just 2 days ago, Ray Holmberg pled guilty to child sex tourism. If you're confused on what that means, this means that Ray, while he was a United States Senator, was traveling overseas to engage in acts with minors. Prosecutors in the case alleged that he traveled 14 times to Prague in the Czech Republic between the years 2011 and 2021 to pay to engage in acts with minors. And even more disturbingly, a number of these trips were state trips. So that means that the United States government was paying for him to go over to the Czech Republic. And he was there on an official capacity. So he definitely did this, and when this all came out, it brought up the history of CP charges that were also leveled at him in the past. That's right, they also discovered that between 2012 and 2013, Ray, who was a United States Senator at the time, was using the alias Sean Evans online to, quote, convince a child to send him sexually explicit images. AKA, this freak was pretending to be a child online to receive CP from a child. So with all of this, the sexual assault, the traveling to a country to engage in acts with minors, the CP, all of that, you would imagine this guy would go away for a long time, right? These are serious, terrible charges. Well, no. Because he pled guilty, he's going to get a sweetheart deal. That means that the Department of Justice dropped the CP charges against him, and the judge is believed to, quote, recommend the low end of the sentencing guideline range. His lawyers have said they expect him to get 3 to 4 years in prison. So for molesting multiple young boys, for convincing a child to send him graphic material, for sexually assaulting a man, for being in contact with a child predator who probably sent him other stuff that got deleted, this guy is going to get 3 to 4 years in prison. Gotta love American justice, right? If you want to join me on my journey to expose pedophiles and creeps like this, listen to my new podcast, The Conspiracy Files. You can either watch it on YouTube or you can listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in a few weeks, we're going to be doing an episode about pedophile members of Congress and the Senate, and it's really, really disturbing stuff. This guy's definitely going in there.
Creepiest places in
the
the world.
Creepiest places in the world. Gate to Hell, Turkmenistan. It's been burning for past 40 years, and no one knows when it's going to stop.
Lake Natron, Tanzania.
Due to high levels of salt contents, everything that touches the lake turns to pure stone.
Oh.
Surprising facts about every single country in the world, part 31. North Korea doesn't tax its citizens. Argentina once had 5 different presidents in 2 weeks. Bulgaria, no army ever has ever captured the Bulgarian flag in battle. Czechia is the most atheist country in the world. Israel developed voicemail technology.
This mother listened as her daughter was mauled by a bear. On August 2011, a 19-year-old Olga Moskolyova went fishing with her stepfather at a river in the village of far eastern Siberia. This area is known for its significant bear population and it's home to one of the largest brown bears in the world. On this day, Olga called her mother and told them that she was being eaten by a bear. At first she thought her daughter was joking, but then she heard the bears growling and chewing and she realized that this was real. Her mother then called her husband, which is Olga's stepfather, but little did she know he was already deceased. The story is that they were done fishing and were on their way back when they realized that they forgot something. So they walked back to the river and came face to face with a brown bear and her cubs. Olga's stepfather was attacked first, and Olga tried to run away, but the bear caught up to her. While Olga's stepfather was already deceased, the bear came back several times to attack Olga until she was dead. But during the attack, Olga was able to call her mother 3 times, and during this call, she told her that she was being eaten by the bear and her cubs. She then ended the conversation by telling her mother that she loved her. The mother called police, and they arrived to the location in about 30 minutes, and they found the bear still eating her husband's body. Like I said, this area is known to have a lot of bears, so people usually bring protection with them, but it was said that Olga and her stepfather did not.
Facts that will blow your mind.
This is a tragic story, Seekers, man. You're getting eaten alive, and you're calling your mom has to hear that. That's just devastating, man. To have the willpower, man, you're getting eaten alive by a bear to even make those calls, and she said 3 times. She's a strong person.
Humans are the only animals that enjoy spicy foods. Potato chips cause more weight gain than any other food. It's impossible to hum while you hold your nose. The least interesting day in history was April 11th, 1954. Aldous Huxley and C.S. Lewis died on the same day as JFK. Bigger forks lead you to eat less. The longest living insect is the termite. Chewing gum after a meal reduces heartburn. Dogs can smell cancer. Bees can detect bombs. Follow and comment below which fact blew your mind.
That dogs can smell cancer and bees can detect bombs? What the hell?
Places that look more creepy at night.
Country roads at night. Dangerous place. Playground at night. Some stuff go down there too.
Through the window, by the window, that's where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me.
That was an edit. You gotta spot them out, man. When we see the edits, call them out. Especially, like I said, you can call them out down below, man, because I might miss some edits too. Let's help each other out, man.
I walked out of the theater after seeing Saw X and decided I need more. So here's 3 horror movies you need to watch, especially if you like Saw. First up is this absolutely insane movie called 31, about 5 carnival workers who get kidnapped by crazy killer clowns and forced to play a deadly game called 31. If I had to describe this movie in 2 words, it would be weird.
31. I guys know, because I'm kind of not big on horror films, but he said she got inspired after seeing Saw. Isn't that like a psychological thriller though? I guess with horror mixed in as well. The Collector.
As well, so follow for more.
Here's some of the scariest unknown creatures caught on camera, part 6. This drone footage captured in the deep parts of the Salt Fork Park in Ohio captures what may be evidence of the elusive Bigfoot. As the drone begins to land, pay attention to the thickets and tell me what you think.
Okay. Definitely saw something in the corner. Bigfoot, was he confirmed, man? You guys know we've seen a lot of sightings or Bigfoot and Sasquatch, but nobody has really able, I guess, been to, like, you know, hunker down and really confirm if it's true or not. That could just be like a different type of animal roaming the forest, or guy in a costume, man. We never know. That's interesting, though. See if I can find some more footage.
Homeowners.
I don't know about you, but I've grown tired of that feeling you get every month waiting for the delivery of the electricity bill. Like many of us, I was fed up of the constant price hikes and the feeling of hopelessness when my electricity bill arrived every month. I felt like I had no control over what I was being charged, and I searched all over to find a solution. That's when I decided to take control of my energy costs. I reached out to a consultant at Zefitech who introduced me to their T1 Powerwall battery. At first, I was skeptical. Why would I need a solar storage system when I don't even have solar panels? But after a quick 10-minute phone consultation, everything clicked. The Powerwall can be charged at night when electricity is cheap at 9p per kilowatt hour. This means that I can store inexpensive energy at night and use it during the day when the electricity rates are higher. Since installing the Powerwall, my electricity bill has been dramatically reduced even without using solar panels. The service and support team from Zefitech has been outstanding. So much so that I decided to take the next step in my renewable journey. And I'm planning to add solar panels to my setup to aim for a zero
electricity bill? Something we should all be aiming towards.
Here are some of the most random fun facts you will ever hear in
Zephyr,
your life.
I'm about to check that out.
Armadillo shells are actually bulletproof. One time a man was hospitalized when he shot at an armadillo and the bullet ricocheted off the shell and hit him instead. There's only one letter in the entire alphabet that isn't in any US state name, and that letter is Q. There's not a single state with the letter Q in its name.
Really?
71% of the earth is covered in water, and humans can only use 0.007% of that water. 2.5% of the total water is fresh water, and only 1% of that is actually accessible. The bumblebee bat is the smallest mammal in the entire world. These things can rest on your fingertips, and you might not even know because they weigh 0.05 to 0.07 ounces. Ostriches are the world's largest and heaviest living bird. That's why they can't fly, but they are built for running, and they can reach speeds of up to 43 miles per hour, and they can pretty easily coast at 30 miles per hour. The longest English word is 189,819,000 letters long. It's a protein and its nickname is titin, and it would take around 3.5 hours to say the word out loud.
He murdered his great-grandmother for $133. In 2012, 13-year-old Antonio Barbo and his best friend Nathan Papp both murdered his great-grandmother in the most horrific way. On that day, Antonio's mother drove the kids to her grandmother's house, 78-year-old Barbara Olsen, but she had no idea what they were about to do. The two teens tried to sneak into Barbara's house, but then she heard them, so she invited them inside. Once Barbara turned around, her great-grandson hit her with a hatchet. Barbara was hit 27 times and had wounds all over her hands and arms, indicating that she tried to defend herself. The teens stole Barbara's jewelry along with $155 and then used that money to buy drugs and pizza. They tried to drag Barbara's body into her car, but when they couldn't pick her up, they just left her in the garage. Barbara's body was found 2 days later by her own daughter, and the boys were arrested not long after. Nathan argues that he thought Antonio was just joking about murdering his own great-grandmother, and he only participated because he was afraid that Antonio would turn on him. Antonio's grandmother, who's also the victim's daughter, spoke out and said that her mother was not a vindictive person and she would have wanted Antonio to have another chance at life. And Antonio's defense really tried to argue that he had a brain injury back in 2009 and that's the reason he did what he did. But none of that mattered because both of these teenagers were sentenced to life in prison and are eligible for parole in 2048.
For some money, man. I tell you, bro, money. It's the root of all evil, bro. For $155, and their lives are over.
These are things that don't exist anymore. Up first is Heinz Purple Ketchup.
What?
I've never had this or even seen it, but I heard it was really good and everybody liked it. Next up are house phones. Everybody had house phones back in the day, but once cell phones started to blow up, these kind of went outdated. Yes, I know some people have them, but not a lot of them do anymore. Next is cursive writing. Kids nowadays can't even read cursive writing and can't even write in cursive. The only thing that is cursive now is signatures.
Yep.
When I was growing up, they made us write cursive and learn it. But nowadays, they just don't.
I remember, growing up in the lower grades, we used to learn cursive, but they stopped doing that.
What is the number one thing that people say they regret before they die? So the following is according to a nurse who spent several years caring for patients in the last 12 weeks of their life. So regret number 5 on the list is that I wish I had let myself be happier. Regret number 4 on the list is that I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. She said that many had become so caught up in their own lives that they had forgot their golden friendships and let them slip by as the years went on. Regret number 3 is I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Now regret number 2 is that I wish I hadn't worked so hard. She said that this came from every male patient that I nursed. They had missed out on their children's youth or their partner's companionship. And regret number 1 was that I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life that others expected of me. Most people had not even honored half of their dreams, and that they had to die knowing that it was due to the choices that they had made or not made.
Follow your dreams, Seekers, man. Don't know, maybe they tell you different.
Tiptoe through the window, by the window, that's where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulip.
What the hell?
With me.
The most historic case that has ever taken place in DC history is probably one that you have never even heard of. One of the scariest cases that I've read in a long time. This is the very true story of the Freeway Phantom. In the 1970s, there was a man in Washington, D.C. who people named the Freeway Phantom because he had one very specific MO. He was only going after young black girls and women. He was abducting them off the street, and then their bodies would be found here, left and positioned right at the freeway. Actually, in the investigation, they profiled him as someone who was a textbook psychopath. He was repeatedly calling the families after he had abducted these girls, and he was breathing into the phone, and then he would say something like, "I just killed your daughter," and then hang up. He even left a handwritten note with the body of one of his victims. If you want the full story on this, we are going to cover it on the show. Mysteriously, in the 90s, all the records on the case vanished.
This pedophile funeral director invited another man to come smoke meth and abuse a corpse with him in a funeral home in England. This story is extremely disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised. Meet Nigel Robinson Wright, who was 42 at the time of his arrest. So online, Nigel had a completely different life than in person. In the real world, Nigel was overseeing funerals and helping people deal with the process of death and grief. But online, Nigel frequented pedophile chat rooms. He egged people on who were essaying animals. He chatted with people about his arousal with dead bodies. And he even offered to show up to a man's house who offered him his own toddler to abuse. So these chats eventually got so extreme that they were turned over to the police. And when the police went to Nigel's house, they confiscated all of his electronic devices. And that's where they found some very disturbing things. There were all sorts of different pornographic videos found on Nigel's devices. Videos that involved animals, dogs, children, and yes, corpses. So Nigel was seeking out all of this violent, extreme material on the internet and even commissioning other users to create this content for him. And in those chats, the authorities discovered Nigel and an acquaintance talking about their previous time spent in the funeral home that Nigel managed. Yes, some of these chats were extremely graphic and involved doing things with dead bodies that humans should never be doing. And they talked about how they had done other things all throughout the funeral home, in the chapel, on the benches, everywhere. So at the end of the day, Nigel was sentenced to 17 years in prison. I don't think that's nearly long enough of a sentence, but yeah, he's gonna be out, in a decade or so. And judging by this dude's twisted mind and his past on the internet, I definitely don't think it's gonna be safe to have him back out in society.
Here are some creatures you should be glad.
Surely.
The Gigantopithecus holds the record for being the largest ape to ever live. They grew to be around 10 feet tall, weighed over 1,200 pounds, and lived in what is now southern China for 6 to 9 million years. They eventually went extinct at the beginning of the Pleistocene ice ages around 100,000 years ago. Scientists believe that this primate walked on all fours like modern apes do, while others believe that they walked with a bipedal or human-like motion, but there is no way to tell who's correct. Due to the way their teeth and jaws were constructed, they had the ability to crush, cut, and grind down almost anything, including very tough and fibrous foods. With all this in mind, this is not an animal you would want to come across in the jungle.
Wouldn't. Sounds like they're gonna grind your bones to dust.
This delivery person has quite the imagination. In fact, he hates his job, so he came up with an idea to make it more interesting. Look at how he delivers his packages. He attached a hoverboard to the back and a wheel to the front so he can move around like a car. And the best part is that he can place his bag on the wheel. He thought of absolutely everything. Beautiful.
Here are the worst mistakes
Truly, he did.
ever made by teachers. Part 3. When it comes to discussing serious topics in the classroom, like the slave trade, the teacher should talk about it with care and sensitivity. But a social studies teacher from the Bronx named Patricia Cummings didn't do this. She had black students lie down on the floor as a demonstration, and allegedly stepped on at least one student's back. She was, of course, fired, but she decided to sue the New York City Department of Education for $120 million. Next, an elementary school teacher from Wales named Elizabeth Davies was in charge of a group of students that had a good number of Bangladeshi students. And she complained that those students constantly smelled of curry and would spray them with air freshener. Needless to say, she was let go. And a teacher from Florida was so fed up with the disruptive students' behavior that she taped the student's mouth shut. She then tried making a point that what happens in her classroom stays in her classroom. Except then this story hit the local news and it became a sticky situation for her.
Why do teachers think they could do, or some teachers think they could do things like that and they just think they're gonna avoid the consequences, man? Like, their kids, well, obviously they're gonna tell their parents or friends, somebody's gonna find out. That first story is crazy, man, how she made those kids demonstrate that. And then she tried to sue them for money. People be trying to sue you for the wrong things. Is this guy? Listen at it.
Words of Satanists before dying. Aleister Crowley. I am perplexed. Anton Lavey. Oh my, what have I done? There is something very wrong. David Hume. I am in flames. Voltaire. I am abandoned by God and man. I will give you half of what I am worth if you give me 6 months of life. Sir Francis Newport. Oh, that fire. Oh, the insufferable pangs of hell. Thomas Paine. Stay with me. For God's sake, I can't bear to be left alone. Oh, Lord, help me.
These are the world's freakiest land animals. In 2022, a TikToker named Kostika uploaded a video that showed a weird-looking creature running around his backyard. Once the video went viral, wildlife experts took to the comments to explain that it was a lesser blind mole rat. And this is because of how its tiny eyes are nearly tucked under its skin. They spend most of their time underground creating tunnels with their massive teeth. In 2020 in British Columbia, a woman was walking around when she saw a bug that looked like a tarantula with wings. She then shared a photo of the bug to Facebook, where wildlife experts explained that this was a very big moth called a polyphemus moth. These moths have huge bodies, and despite their scary looks, they don't have mouths to bite. And they have a lifespan of about 2 weeks. And in 2024 in Sydney, Australia, a TikToker named Blonde heard a weird tapping sound coming from her window at night, and she went to investigate. And what she found is like something out of nightmares. At her window, a bat was tapping on the glass, trying to find a way to escape the storm. And it stayed around until the next morning, where Blonde had to call a bat expert to come remove it. But this turned out to be a non-aggressive species of a bat known as a flying fox. And they only eat fruit or flowers. They also struggle to keep warm when they're wet, which explains why it was at her window. Now I just feel sorry for the little guy.
This skier is about to do something terrifying. In fact, he's a world champion in skiing, and during his competitions, he developed a unique technique to go much faster and especially much further.
Sorry, but I'm the one. Gliding. Like a Batman or something.
The whole Nico Cardo avocado situation is completely fake and driving everybody insane. At least that's what a lot of people are saying on here. Let me explain. So yesterday I'm sure you saw this video where he revealed himself finally after a few months of not being active. And of course the majority of you remember him like this over the past few years making content across various platforms. Yep. People are going crazy saying, how the hell is it possible he lost this much weight in between 2 and 7 months? Is it Ozempic? Is it, I don't know what's going on. Which has led many people to believe that these are actually all pre-recorded Because this is what it used to look like 8 years ago. So people are saying that basically all that time ago he pre-recorded all of these videos ready to put them out and basically prank everyone. Especially many people cottoning on to the fact that he has this bird in this video, which he had a long time ago and apparently the bird died. But he said he got a new one. However, this video that he posted yesterday was of the Charlie XCX Apple dance, which obviously is a new trend, so how would this be pre-recorded? And he said it's not been 2 months, he's basically pre-recorded these videos over the last couple of years during his transformation. So all the content the last couple of years was pre-recorded, and the stuff now is finally the real him. It's definitely interesting, and I mean, congrats to him for losing that much weight, it is crazy. And as always, hit that follow button, and I'll keep you updated.
This is the scariest...
That nickel avocado situation, it was actually insane, man. Saw it trending. But if he actually freaking pre-recorded those videos for years and was working on his transformation, like his video said, he really was 2 steps ahead. That's insane, man. He lost that much weight. But to put your body through that, I couldn't do it.
Story about the bath. Jennifer was sitting at her desk in her room. She was finishing up her homework when she suddenly got a text from a number she did not recognize. The text message said, "Take a bath and go to bed, it's a school night, Mom." Jennifer thought her mom's phone died, and she used somebody else's phone to text her. She already planned on taking a bath, so she undressed and grabbed a towel and walked into the bathroom. She stopped in her tracks and was surprised that the bathtub was already filled. "I guess my mom filled it in advance," she said. She then shrugged her shoulders and got in the bathtub. When she was in the bathtub, she became aware of a burning sensation all over her body, and it got worse and worse until she was crying. She then jumped out of the bath, but it was too late. The water was blood red, and the skin on her arms and legs were beginning to peel off. She was dripping blood and skin. She then picked up her phone to call the police, but there was a new text message waiting for her. It said, "Next time, bathe in water." Jennifer then heard laughter behind her, and standing there was a man holding an empty container of sulfuric acid.
Oh.
Before hiking this trail, there is
Careful.
a warning sign that states if you have difficulties passing through the 2 posts, you should not continue. People have been calling nature fat-phobic and that it should be widened for plus-sized people, but the sign is warning people that the canyon is very narrow to avoid anyone getting harmed. What do you think?
These are human body parts
Fat-phobic?
that may disappear in the future. First up is body hair. Originally, it protected ancient humans from harsh weather conditions. However, over time, with modern clothes and changes in environmental conditions, human body hair has significantly decreased and continues to do so. Many scientists believe it might eventually completely disappear. Next are wisdom teeth. They used to serve an evolutionary purpose for ancient humans who had much rougher diets and needed more chewing power. But our diets have softened and our jaws have become increasingly smaller. As a result, they have no space to properly grow in, and many people need to have them surgically removed. Many babies are now being born without wisdom teeth, and scientists believe this will eventually be the standard. Finally, we have male nipples. Everyone starts as female in the womb, and before the Y chromosome kicks in for males, nipples have already formed. When the baby becomes male, the prolactin levels decrease, making the male nipples non-functional. So while it's debated, some scientists think they'll disappear.
No more male nipples? That's freaking a crazy image to think about, bro.
Here's a list of historical facts that will mess with your perception of time. The last execution by guillotine in France happened after the first ever Star Wars premiered. What? The corporation Nintendo, that was formed the same year that Starry Night was painted. By Vincent van Gogh. The Roman Empire fell in 1453. And America was discovered 40 years later in 1492. Those 2 points in history are miles apart in my head. In 1861, Italy became an official country. And in 1886, Coca-Cola was invented. They were probably serving Coke at the 25-year anniversary of Italy itself. Rosa Parks and Harriet Tubman, both prominent female figures in the civil rights movement, were alive during the same time. Like for a few months, but that's still crazy. In 1686, Isaac Newton came up with the 3 laws of motion. And in 1692, the Salem witch trial started. We were doing so well with science. And then we were just like, oh no, women are witches actually.
We were just getting some tragic news that 17 students have just been killed and 13 others have been seriously injured after a fire broke out at a school dormitory in Nyeri, Kenya. And that number is sadly expected to go up, as there are still another 70 children missing. Now, we do not know what caused the fire yet, but what we do know is that there were more than 150 kids in the dormitory when the fire broke throughout the buildings. And the reason it was so deadly is that most of the buildings in the school are made out of wood, so it spread rapidly. The average age of the victims is only 9 years old.
John Chow hired 2 fishermen to take him out to this little island in the Indian Ocean. The next morning when the sun came up, John asked the fishermen to take him in a little bit closer, but the fishermen refused. So John puts a kayak in the water and he begins paddling into this island. He sees someone come out of the forest who has their face painted yellow. They all start looking at each other and they start screeching and running down the beach towards John. John stands there until they come all the way up to him. They don't shoot him with arrows, but they take his kayak. And then at some point, a child pulls his bow and arrow out and fires a bow directly at John. And he was holding a Bible, and he stopped the arrow with his Bible. And at that point, John is like, okay, I gotta go. And he jumps in the water, and without a kayak, has to swim a mile to get back to the fishing boat. And so the next day, he told the fishermen he wanted them to drop him off, and he would swim in, and he wanted them to leave and be completely out of sight. And so the fishermen drop him off, and they leave. The next day, when the fishermen come back to collect John, they see these people dragging his body by a rope. No one knows exactly what happened to John, how they killed him, but it's too dangerous for anyone to go back and retrieve his body, and so his body remains at North Sentinel Island. The few hundred people that live on North Sentinel Island that were responsible for killing John Chow, they're referred to as the Sentinelese, and they are unbelievably primitive. The Sentinelese want only Sentinelese on that island. No one else can be there. If you're not a Sentinelese and you try to go to their island, they'll...
Look, why did he go back there? Is he trying to like make contact with them? But some tribes, like you said, they just don't accept outsiders. I mean, that's how I used to bake people, turn them into sandwiches or something, right? I don't see how people can do that. Creepy ass dolls. We don't mess with those seekers at all. The Hills of Oz. Twins. Whew. Man. Admit. Sending those letters, what the hell? Oh, 4 feet. Woo. Interesting. We learning out of these clips, man. They informing us. We was on the screen. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're true seekers seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support, man. Like I said, guys, make sure you guys comment down below. Helps out the video. Also, hit that thumbs up button. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to follow me on my social medias down below. Guys, gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.